There's an epidemic of people addicted to this class of prescription drugs that doctors prescribe to people like candy, yet it is one of the most addictive, most insidious drugs imaginable, with some of the worst withdrawal symptoms possible. And this class of drugs is benzodiazepines, and I'm talking specifically about Xanax, which is one of the more well-known benzos and one of the ones that I am currently addicted to. I don't like to use the word addiction, actually. I prefer to say physical dependence, because the connotation with addiction is that I am actively looking for this drug and trying to take it in order to get high or get some type of euphoric effect, where in reality, I hate taking it, and the only reason I take it is just to feel normal and to not get physically and mentally sick, because I will experience horrific withdrawal symptoms if I don't take it, and I hate being physically dependent on it. But basically, I was prescribed it about 15 years ago. I started having some panic attacks around my mid-20s and went to see a psychologist, and she prescribed me Xanax and said to take it every day, and I didn't know much about benzos, so I didn't think that'd be an issue. I had no idea, absolutely no idea how addictive this stuff was. And again, this is why I hate medical doctors, because they should know that you should never prescribe a benzo to somebody for taking it every day, because if you take it that consistently, you will become physically dependent probably in a matter of weeks to a month and a half. If you take it every day, 95% of people within a month will become physically dependent, and then you are up a creek, because trying to get off of it will be hell. So I've been taking it for years and years, and it is just something that has just become kind of a way of life at this point. And I wish I had never, ever started taking it to begin with. I wish that I had it and just took it as needed and for emergencies, because trying to get off of it is absolutely the hardest thing ever, and I've tried multiple times to do it and have been unsuccessful with it. It is one of only 2 substances that you can actually die from withdrawal symptoms. Basically, alcohol, and if you're severely addicted to alcohol, you can die from going cold turkey, and same with benzodiazepines. You can end up having seizures, really bad seizures that can kill you if you were to just stop taking it completely. And that's a really scary thought. It's something that I think about all the time, because I think, what if I can't get access to the benzos, or I get cut off or something? I'm going to be in some serious trouble. So I talked to my psychiatrist, and unfortunately, most of them, again, they're willing to push these drugs, but they don't know how to properly get people off. Getting off a benzo is pretty much different than any other type of drug. Most drugs, you can go to a rehabilitation center, and they can get you off within a month, maybe a couple months. But with benzos, it's much different. It will, if you were to try to get off within a month or a few months, and you have been taking it daily for years, that is usually way too quick to try to titrate somebody off of it. If you want to do it properly, you have to wean off of it slow, and that can take a year, maybe 2 years, maybe even longer, depending on how long you've been taking it, how high your dose is, and a variety of other factors. It is just such an insidious drug, and just the withdrawal symptoms, there's just so many of them. I could just go through a list of all of them, but it would take literally probably 5 minutes just to read off that list, and most of them. And it's a combination of physical and, mental, psychological withdrawals. It is something that I was hesitant about making a video about, because it's kind of a taboo subject, I guess. not a lot of people want to talk about this, and I'm not ashamed to say that I'm physically dependent on it, because literally anybody would be. I just took it as prescribed by my psychologist or psychiatrist, and didn't try to abuse it or anything, but it doesn't matter. Anybody will get hooked on these things because they're such a powerful drug. So I'm not ashamed to admit that I have a physical dependence to it, and I've been trying to wean myself off of it. I actually, years back, was starting to slowly titrate off of Xanax, and was doing pretty well, and then I started to get hit with the vision issues, and the vision issues put my anxiety and my stress to levels I had never ever thought were imaginable. So I was actually taking more of it because I had some, extra stockpiled because I had cut my dose back, and the vision issues gave me such bad anxiety, and they still do, but especially when I was first developing them, that I was just doubling, tripling my dose just to try to numb myself because it was just so hard to deal with them. And I actually was able about a year ago to convince my psychiatrist, a different one, not the one that prescribed me it, to switch me to Valium, because I thought Valium would be easier to get off than Xanax, because it's a longer, has a longer half-life, it's a longer acting benzo, so you're not going to get a lot of the interdose withdrawals you would with Xanax, since it's kind of in and out of your system quicker. And milligram per milligram, it's a higher dose, so it's a little bit easier to titrate and to cut up the pills. So I actually have been able to slowly start to wean myself off the Valium, but it's been very difficult. But I do want to eventually get off of it, because I don't want to be on these drugs forever. I know it's definitely affected me mentally. I am definitely not as sharp or as intelligent. I remember into the first month of taking the Xanax that my short-term memory was starting to go, and it affects your cognitive abilities. It kind of blunts you emotionally. It does a bunch of stuff. It supposedly can cause or speed up dementia in people, and my grandfather had dementia, so I feel like I might be more predisposed to it, and especially taking the benzos, it's only going to make it way worse. So that's another reason I want to get off. And I'm sure the drug has done some irreversible brain damage to me, which is another reason why I want to get off. And the problem too is the withdrawals, besides being so horrific, is that they can last for years, sometimes after you get off. There's something called protracted withdrawal symptom, where even after you've been off the drugs for a long time, you can still have withdrawal symptoms, and on occasion, some of these withdrawal symptoms will actually last the rest of your life. It is no joke. These drugs are just absolute poison. And again, this is why I hate doctors, and just the medical system's so messed up, because they will prescribe these drugs like candy, and then God forbid you want to get off. Most prescribers, they don't know how to properly taper people off of them. And there's a Dr. Ashton, this was back I think in the 80s or 90s when she developed the Ashton Manual, which is over 100-page document, basically talking about all sorts of things about benzos and everything, but it gives you the protocol as to how to properly taper people off of it, because most of these doctors, these psychologists, psychiatrists, they don't know how to taper people off of it, and they don't really care either. It's they'll be happy to prescribe it, but God forbid you want to get off, they don't know how to properly taper you off. I had primary care physician who was overseeing the medication before I started getting it from my psychiatrist, and she literally cut the dose in half, which was way too quick to go off, and I was getting violently ill from just such a huge decrease in the dose so quickly, and she didn't care. And she didn't know, again, they don't no, they don't care, and most of them, yeah, they don't know anything. And again, everybody's like, oh, we'll go to a traditional rehab center. It's like, the thing is, traditional rehab centers, even those people don't know how to properly taper people off of benzos. And it's just a completely different animal whatsoever. And anyway, the point of me making this video is I know there's a ton of people who have been taking these drugs for a long time, and they don't want to talk about it because there is that stigma behind it. And, you know, some of the most brilliant people with the strongest minds, like Jordan Peterson. I'm not sure if people are aware of who he is, but he's one of the most brilliant thinkers of our time. And he had a horrible time getting off Xanax, and he's, I think, one of the most strong-minded people ever. And even him, this drug just did a number on him, and I think it almost killed him. And I think he finally was able to get off of it. But these drugs are no joke. They are, people think like, you know, heroin and opiates and opiate withdrawal is like such a horrible thing, and I can't speak personally from that because I've never been addicted to opiates, but I know people who have been addicted to opiates and benzos, and they said get out of opiates was like a walk in the park compared to trying to get out benzos. But people, again, they're ignorant. They don't understand that, like, how horrible these drugs are and how many people are addicted, and God forbid they can't get the medication. Man, it's just, a lot of people be screwed. So if any of this resonates with anybody, you know, I'm sure people, even if they're not experiencing this personally, they may know family members or friends who are on these drugs. And you have to understand that, you know, it's something that they just don't really have control over. These drugs are so powerful that it is, it's really, really tough. Really, 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 really tough to try and get off of them, especially if you have a lot of our stress and anxiety and stuff, which, you know, I did before. But then with the chronic health issues specifically, or, you know, especially the vision issues, which has caused me so much anxiety as it is, it's like trying to get off benzos, which obviously is going to increase your anxiety like tenfold when you start to try to get off of it, coupled with the vision issues and all the other stuff going on in my life. It just makes it that much harder to try and get off of them. But I know I won't be on them forever. I don't want to be on them forever. It's not, it's just having my life revolve around some pill and always being afraid that I'm not going to have it or can't get to it or whatever. It's no way to live, you know? So that was a very personal video that a lot of people are going to see. But again, you know, I'm not ashamed of it. Anybody else in my situation who was prescribed them and took them as prescribed and took them as long as I did, 99% of those people would be in the same situation as me. So I'm not ashamed of it. And, you know, I'm not afraid to speak up about these things, and I'm very transparent. And I think that's, you know, something that a lot of my viewers appreciate about me, hopefully. So that's all I got today. If any of this resonates with you, you know, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you like. It's kind of like raw, uncensored, but uncut, just footage. And yeah, hope everyone is doing well. And until next time, stay strong, warriors.